In the girls' dormitory of the medical school, Zhou Ziwei and Guan Xiaoxiao were each holding one of Jiang Wanqi's arms, trying their best to persuade her. Cici, Meng Qi totally ditched us for her boyfriend. If you don't come, this concert ticket will go to waste. Zhou Ziwei pleaded. Jiang Wanqi smiled, but didn't stop typing. I have to submit a report tomorrow, no time to go. You two have fun. Guan Xiaoxiao, still unwilling to give up, chimed in. Do you even know who's performing tonight? It's Gu Jingyang, the golden voice of the music world, graduate of an American university and winner of countless music awards. He's got the brains, the looks, and the talent. He's an absolute heartthrob. Jiang Wanqi finally paused, chuckling at Guan Xiaoxiao's over-the-top expression. Xiaoxiao, you might want to wipe the drool off your face first. Enough talk. Zhou Ziwei, the action-oriented one, snapped Jiang Wanqi's laptop shut with a loud clap. You're coming with us tonight, no excuses. Jiang Wanqi groaned, already dreading the scolding she'd get from her professor for missing the report deadline. The concert was at the city's sports center, and by the time they arrived, it was nearly about to start. They squeezed into their seats, surrounded by the buzz of excitement. Jiang Wanqi looked around. Nearly 10,000 people had packed the venue, each holding glowing signs and cheering for Gu Jingyang. This was her first time watching a concert from the audience, and the sheer energy of it all left her in awe. Guan Xiaoxiao cupped her hands around her mouth like a megaphone and shouted, "Look at the power of Gu Jingyang's fan base. Isn't it amazing?" Jiang Wanqi smiled, about to respond, when her phone suddenly rang. She reached for it, but Guan Xiaoxiao snatched it away and stuffed it into her bag. Look at this contact name, My Little Lamb. So cheesy. You're always showing off your relationship in front of us, but tonight, your full attention better be on Gu Jingyang. Jiang Wanqi laughed helplessly and gave in. At precisely 8 p.m., the lights dimmed across the arena, and the entire audience fell silent, holding their breath. Suddenly, a spotlight shone from the corner of the stage. Slowly rising on an elevator platform was Gu Jingyang, dressed in a white suit, sitting at a grand piano. His fingers glided over the keys, and a beautiful melody began to fill the air. The light cast a soft glow on his chiseled face, and his voice, smooth and soulful, carried across the venue. One beautiful person, Zhou Ziwei whispered the song title in awe. It's so beautiful. Guan Xiaoxiao excitedly explained. This was the title track of Gu Jingyang's debut album. It became an instant hit, and he opens every concert with it. Jiang Wanqi nodded softly, murmuring, I know. You do. Guan Xiaoxiao found it curious and was about to ask more, but when she turned to look at Jiang Wanqi, she saw her focused gaze on the stage. In her eyes, a soft light sparkled, filled with quiet admiration. By the time the concert ended, it was past 10 p.m. The girls hailed a cab back to their dorm, with Guan Xiaoxiao chattering nonstop about the show. Did you see Gu Jingyang dance? So cool, so sexy. I had this crazy urge to jump on stage and rip his shirt off. And that female dancer was so lucky, being that close to him. I'm jealous. I'm signing up for dance classes tomorrow. Jiang Wanqi and Zhou Ziwei exchanged a look and quickened their pace, leaving the overexcited Guan Xiaoxiao behind. You two are the worst, Guan Xiaoxiao shouted, running to catch up, when she suddenly noticed a familiar black car parked outside the dorm. Her eyes lit up mischievously. Cici, your little lamb is here. Jiang Wanqi froze, following Guan Xiaoxiao's gaze to the black car. Sure enough, it was one she recognized. She quickly said to the others, You two head up first. No need to wait for me. But Guan Xiaoxiao wasn't going to let it go that easily. She grabbed Jiang Wanqi's arm and insisted, No way. It's been forever, and we still haven't met your mysterious boyfriend. He still owes us a dinner. Some other time. It's too late tonight. Jiang Wanqi knew Guan Xiaoxiao wouldn't give up easily, so she quickly ran over to the car and hopped in. Wendy Jiang barely sat down in the car before being pulled into a warm embrace. The next second, a wave of passionate kisses came crashing down on her, like a burst of long-suppressed desire and enthusiasm. This was the dorm area, bustling with people. Wendy, with her thin skin, was afraid of being seen. She struggled with all her strength to push away the man pressing against her, but his arms were solid and strong. There was no way she could break free, and she had no choice but to let him kiss her to his heart's content. When the kiss finally ended, Wendy was still catching her breath, but he was already questioning her. "Why did you come back so late? You didn't answer my calls. I couldn't get you to go out, but you rush off as soon as someone else invites you, huh?" Fuming, Wendy smacked him on the neck and snapped, "I went to see a handsome guy, super handsome, too." But before she could finish, another fiery kiss full of jealousy overtook her, leaving no room for protest. Wendy finally found a brief moment to speak and gasped, "I went to your concert." The man under the black baseball cap, with his finely chiseled features, was none other than Gu Jingyang, who had just been performing on stage. He was a contradiction, an ideal idol on stage, but as childish as a kid off stage. Gu frowned and said, "Didn't you say you couldn't make it? Why'd you come all of a sudden? If you told me earlier, I would have saved you a VIP seat." "Did you forget? My roommates are all your hardcore fans. They dragged me along. By the way, isn't there supposed to be a celebration after the concert? Why didn't you go?" Gu Jingyang leaned over, buckled her seatbelt, gave her a quick kiss on the corner of her lips, and started the car. "I haven't seen you in a month. How could I focus on a party? You're not going back to the dorm tonight. Stay with me, okay?" Wendy blushed. "Won't we disturb your parents if we go back?" Gu Jingyang chuckled. "I meant the apartment the company rented for me. It's just the two of us, His last word trailed off in a low, seductive drawl, full of insinuation. Wendy suddenly remembered her friend Xiao Zhao's joke about stripping his clothes, and her face turned even redder. Seeing the blush spreading across her fair cheeks, Gu Jingyang's heart stirred, and with a press of the gas pedal, the car sped off. Gu and Wendy had been childhood friends, growing up in the same neighborhood and experiencing each other's every milestone. When Wendy entered high school, Gu went abroad for his studies. After he returned, they naturally got together. The day Wendy received her college acceptance letter was the day they became official. At that time, Gu had just released his first album and was beginning to rise in fame. That night, Gu helped her celebrate. Wendy had drunk quite a bit, and her only memory was of Gu's face close to hers under the dim lights, his Adam's apple moving as he spoke. "Wendy, I can't wait any longer." In the years since, she had been busy with her studies while Gu was occupied with work. They didn't spend much time together, but whenever they did, it was always a passionate reunion. After a session of intense lovemaking, Wendy felt completely drained, her body soft and weak as though washed by water. Gu Jingyang carried her from the couch to the bed, slipped on a pair of jeans, and headed to the kitchen, his upper body still bare. Watching his muscular back, Wendy felt a warm sweetness in her heart. A moment later, Gu came back with a cup of hot milk, handing it to her. It was her nightly routine. She couldn't sleep soundly without a cup of warm milk. Whenever Gu was with her, he always prepared it for her. Even when he wasn't, he would send her a text to remind her. After downing the milk in one go, Wendy looked up at Gu and said, "Tonight was my first time seeing you in concert. It's hard to describe, but you were different." Gu placed the cup on the bedside table, gave her nose a playful flick, and smiled. "How so?" Wendy thought for a moment. "You were really serious, dazzling, and so charismatic on stage. You made people feel this overwhelming sense of admiration." Gu's lips curled into a sly smile as he tilted her chin with a finger. "So, you've started to admire me now?" He smiled with a charming yet mischievous glint, and the bare skin of his chest radiated pure masculine energy. Wendy silently cursed herself for being so easily flustered. Even after all this time together, he could still make her heart race. "In your dreams." Wendy quickly composed herself and swatted his hand away. "I was speaking from the perspective of your fans. To me, you'll always be my little lamb who can't turn the tables, humph." Immediately, Gu was back to his usual self, sighing dramatically. "Babe, can't you give me a cooler nickname? This one's just too embarrassing." Wendy grinned. I learned it from your mom. Gu glared at her. She's my mom, so I can't control what she calls me. But I'm your man, so you. Wendy suddenly jumped up on the bed, standing tall and looking down at him. You're my man? Then shouldn't you listen to me? Yes, definitely. Gu let out a helpless sigh, scooped her up in his arms, and gently placed her back on the bed. Don't hurt yourself. You can call me whatever you want. Should I go run you a bath, my queen? Wendy leaned back against the soft pillows, waved her hand, and said smugly, Go on then. Gu Jingyang sighed internally. It seemed that the soft and timid Wendy he once knew was truly gone for good. Beauty can truly be distracting. Jiang Wanshi completely forgot about her report and dashed out the door early the next morning. Gu Jingyang wanted to give her a ride, but by the time he hurried downstairs with his coat on, she was already gone. Luckily, she had already thought through most of her report the previous night, and after a hectic rush, she managed to finish it just before class started. As soon as she sat down, Meng Qi leaned over with a mysterious look and whispered, I heard you went out and had fun again last night? Jiang Wanshi sighed. Ever since Meng Qi got a boyfriend, her comments had become increasingly bold, making it hard for anyone to respond. Just as they were talking, Guan Xiaoxiao suddenly called out excitedly, Look, Gu Jingyang's latest interview is online. A few of them crowded around to watch the interview on Guan Xiaoxiao's phone. On the screen was a man wearing a white shirt and black casual pants, the sleeves of his shirt casually rolled up, showing off his well-defined arms. He looked strikingly handsome. It was a very popular talk show known for its bold questions, and the guests were always big-name celebrities or business elites. Jiang Wanshi vaguely remembered Gu Jingyang mentioning this interview before, but she wasn't clear on the details, and her curiosity was piqued. Perhaps because Gu Jingyang was already well established in the industry, the female host didn't ask any particularly aggressive questions. However, near the end, she suddenly switched topics and asked about his first love. Gu Jingyang didn't avoid the topic. He thought for a moment, then smiled gently and said, Of course I remember. It was when I was a teenager. I had a crush on a little girl who lived next door. She often wore a pink and white dress, had big eyes, and spoke in the softest, sweetest voice. She was incredibly beautiful. Her room had a window that faced mine, and I used to secretly watch her from my window. Sometimes, when our eyes accidentally met, I'd be so excited that I couldn't sleep all night. The female host hadn't expected him to share so openly, and she eagerly asked, And what happened after that? Did you win her over? Gu Jingyang chuckled smugly. Of course I did. She liked playing the piano, so I composed a piece for her. She loved it and asked me to teach her, and one thing led to another. She was mine. Actually, that piece later became the background music for A Beauty Like No Other. Without her, I might never have gotten into music. The host, clearly in awe, pressed on. It sounds like you really loved her. Do you still keep in touch? Gu Jingyang simply smiled and said nothing. The interview ended there. Unbelievable. Guan Xiaoxiao exclaimed. Did you see the look in his eyes when he talked about his first love? He was so gentle. Oh my god. I wonder which lucky girl that was. Jiang Wanshi quietly rolled her eyes and thought, Your perfect idol might just be lounging on a balcony in a tank top and shorts right now. After class, Gu Jingyang picked up Jiang Wanshi and they headed to the Crown Club where Li Shilong's bachelor party was being held. Normally, Jiang Wanshi didn't attend these kinds of events, but Li Shilong was different. He had been her idol for years. She had always wanted Gu Jingyang to take her to meet him, but he was too stingy to do so. Today, he finally agreed, probably only because Li Shilong was getting married. The Crown Club was a favorite among the wealthy elite, offering everything from dining to entertainment with top-notch privacy. As they walked in, the hostess at the entrance spotted Gu Jingyang, and her eyes lit up with excitement. Gu Jingyang, I'm such a huge fan. I've bought every one of your albums. Gu Jingyang didn't pay much attention and strode forward, but Jiang Wanshi tugged at his sleeve, refusing to move. Gu Jingyang sighed, smiled, and walked back to the hostess. He extended his hand and said, "Hello, and thank you for your support." The hostess, overwhelmed, trembled as she shook his hand. Gu Jingyang's fans knew him as someone cold and distant, not fond of interacting with fans. At airports, he usually wore sunglasses and walked quickly without saying a word, but fans still loved and understood him. However, Jiang Wanqi wasn't a fan of this aloofness. She didn't want Gu Jingyang to become one of those arrogant celebrities who took their fans' admiration for granted. Seeing that Jiang Wanqi was still upset, Gu Jingyang wrapped his arm around her and said softly, "I'm trying to change, you see? I was so well-behaved just now." "Not bad. But next time, if you act all distant again, I'll beat you up on behalf of your fans." Jiang Wanqi puffed her cheeks and playfully waved a fist at him. Gu Jingyang held her hand and laughed. "My fans wouldn't dare. Only you treat me like this every day." Gu Jingyang led Jiang Wanqi into the private room they had reserved. The room fell silent as everyone turned to look at her. Jiang Wanqi suddenly felt nervous, her palms sweating. Gu Jingyang gave her a reassuring look before turning to the crowd and saying, "What are you all staring at? Keep going." A handsome young man walked over, clapped Gu Jingyang on the shoulder, and smiled at Jiang Wanqi. "Where did you find such a pretty girl? Aren't you going to introduce her to us?" Gu Jingyang pulled Jiang Wanqi into his arms with a proud grin. "This is my girlfriend, Jiang Wanqi. You can look, but no questions, and definitely no drinks for her." The man burst out laughing. "Gu Jingyang, you're really protective. But I think your girlfriend has been staring at our movie, Starly, the whole time." Li Shilong's gaze met Jiang Wanqi's, and her face turned bright red. Embarrassed, she quickly lowered her head. Li Shilong, nearly 40, exuded the charm of a mature man. Being this close to her idol, Jiang Wanqi was so excited she could barely speak. She awkwardly muttered, "Hello." Li Shilong smiled warmly. "Do you want a signature? Or maybe a photo?" Jiang Wanqi, her heart racing, asked, "Can I have both?" Li Shilong waved her over. "Come here." Jiang Wanqi practically skipped over to her idol for a photo. Gu Jingyang, standing to the side, clenched his jaw in frustration, while the others in the room burst into laughter. Jiang Wanqi went to the bathroom, and when she came out, she bumped into Shi Ran at the door. Shi Ran was a junior colleague of Gu Jingyang, and they had just been introduced. Jiang Wanqi smiled and greeted her, ready to leave. But Shi Ran blocked her path, arms crossed, raising an eyebrow. "I never expected you to be with senior brother. What a surprise." Jiang Wanqi sighed inwardly. It seemed Shi Ran's attitude changed drastically depending on whether Gu Jingyang was present or not. However, Jiang Wanqi wasn't one to back down easily. She chuckled lightly. "No need to worry about that, Miss Shi." "Is that so?" Shi Ran sneered. "What do you think his fans will say when they find out that your father is a corrupt official?" Jiang Wanqi's hand paused mid-wash. "You investigated me? So what if I did?" Shi Ran laughed mockingly. "You can't hide the truth forever. Jiang Wanqi, don't ruin Gu Jingyang's bright future." Jiang Wanqi looked at her coldly. "Miss Shi, you don't get to judge my father. And even a corrupt official's daughter is better than someone who sneaks around invading other people's privacy." With that, she quickly walked out of the bathroom. "Jiang Wanqi, don't think that just because you have Gu Jingyang, you can stay smug forever." Shi Ran shouted angrily from behind. Why did Shi Ran know all this? Would she tell others? What would happen if everyone found out? Jiang Wanqi's mind was in turmoil. She sent a text to Gu Jingyang, telling him she was leaving early and took a taxi back to the Gu family's house. This was Gu Jingyang's home, and over the years, it had long become her home too. Gu's mother was surprised to see her arrive. Hugging her, she said affectionately, "You've been working too hard lately. Look how skinny you've gotten. Where's Yangzai? Why didn't he come with you?" Jiang Wanqi snuggled into her arms, acting spoiled. "Gu mama, I want to sleep with you tonight." Sensing that something was off, Gu's mother gave a quick glance to Gu's father, signaling him to call Gu Jingyang. She then took Jiang Wanqi to the bedroom. Lying in Gu mama's arms, Jiang Wenqi finally felt calm. She whispered, "Gu Mama, I miss my dad." Gu Mama's hand paused for a moment. She gently said, "Tomorrow, we'll have Yangzai drive you to visit him. It's not far." Jiang Wenqi couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears. "My dad's been in prison for nearly 6 years. He feels guilty, like he hasn't given me a good life, so he refuses to see me. He made mistakes, but to me, he's the best dad in the world. I don't blame him at all." At that moment, Gu Jingyang rushed in, his face filled with concern. "What happened, Cici?" Gu Mama shot him an annoyed glance, but understanding it was better to let them talk alone, she whispered a few words and left the room. Gu Jingyang immediately pulled Jiang Wenqi into his arms. Seeing the tear stains on her face, he asked with a heartache, "What happened? Did someone bully you?" Jiang Wenqi shook her head and softly replied, "No. You were fine just a moment ago. Why all of a sudden?" "Gu Jingyang, let's take a break," Jiang Wenqi suddenly said. His hands froze, disbelief filling his eyes. He looked at her seriously. "Are you joking?" "I'm serious." Jiang Wenqi raised her eyes to meet his. "I'm tired. Please, just leave." Gu Jingyang laughed bitterly, his face filled with frustration. "And what's your reason?" After a pause, Jiang Wenqi answered, "Being with you is too stressful. I'm constantly worried about being found out. I don't want to live like this anymore." Gu Jingyang stared at her, his dark eyes swirling with a storm of emotions. Finally, he closed his eyes and stormed out. Downstairs, the sound of breaking glass and a car speeding away echoed in the air. Jiang Wenqi curled up under the blanket, her heart aching. When she was 15, her father had been sentenced to 15 years in prison for corruption. Her mother, devastated, fell into depression and slit her wrists in the bathroom a week later. Their house was seized, and no one wanted to take in a criminal's daughter. In the end, it was the kind-hearted Gu family who took her in. Gu Mama, feeling sorry for her, wanted to adopt her as a daughter. But Gu Jingyang, who had been studying abroad in the US, flew back and said only one thing. "Mom, Dad, Cici can't be your daughter, but she can be your daughter-in-law." From that moment on, all the unspoken affection between them grew deeper, blossoming into a love that was inseparable. The Gu family and Gu Jingyang gave her hope and courage to start over. She didn't want them to suffer because of her. Sure, Rant's words had forced her to confront this reality. Ever since that night when Gu Jingyang stormed off, almost a month had passed without any contact between them. Jiang Wenqi only knew from the news that he had recently endorsed a luxury watch brand and was currently in France shooting an advertisement. Jiang Wenqi was studying clinical medicine, and during the second half of her 4th year, many of her classmates had already begun applying for internships at various hospitals. Thanks to her excellent grades and a professor's recommendation, she quickly secured an internship as a surgical intern at the city's first hospital. Her supervisor was the chief surgeon, Lin Yayun, a young but highly respected doctor at the hospital. He was admired by many female doctors and nurses, not only for his skills but also because he was handsome and, more importantly, still single. After spending just one day with him, Jiang Wenqi understood why someone as good-looking as Lin Yayun had remained single. He was far too sharp-tongued. His words were like daggers, dripping with venom. However, Jiang Wenqi was mentally strong, meticulous in her work, and her gentle personality allowed her to endure his criticism with a smile. She would even ask him, "Dr. Lin, how do you think I should handle it?" and managed to survive his brutal training. One day, a nurse quietly approached her and whispered, "Wenqi, have you noticed that Dr. Lin treats you differently? He never takes on interns, and if anyone makes a mistake in front of him, he'd scold them harshly. But you're different. He personally requested to mentor you, and last time when you messed up on a suture, he taught you stitch by stitch. My gosh, do you know how long it's been since he last did such a minor procedure, let alone with detailed explanations?" Jiang Wenqi was speechless. If only the nurse had seen how harshly Lin Yayun had scolded her. It was enough to make anyone want to jump into a river. But her words made Jiang Wenqi feel that Lin Yayun's face seemed familiar, though she couldn't quite place him. That afternoon, the entire hospital buzzed with excitement. Jiang Wenqi was doing rounds with Lin Yayun when she heard people exclaiming in the hallway, "Gu Jingyang! Gu Jingyang is in the emergency room." The pen in Jiang Wenqi's hand slipped to the floor, and she stood frozen in place. Lin Yayun glanced at her, bent down to pick up the pen, then knocked her lightly on the head, saying, "Why are you standing there? Did you note down what I just said?" At that moment, a nurse rushed over, flushed with excitement. Gu Jingyang. Gu Jingyang injured his arm. There's a possible minor fracture, but he refuses treatment. He said. What did he say? Lin Yayun asked impatiently. The nurse glanced nervously at Jiang Wenqi and whispered, "He said he wouldn't get treated unless Dr. Jiang handles it." Ridiculous. Lin Yayun slammed the paperwork on the table and barked, "Does he think this hospital is a playground? Tell him if he doesn't want treatment, he can go cool off somewhere else." The nurse, startled, looked to Jiang Wenqi for help. Worried, Jiang Wenqi pleaded, "Dr. Lin, please let me go see him." Lin Yayun frowned and said, "You're not qualified to treat patients independently yet." "I know, but I just want to check on him. Maybe I can help," Jiang Wenqi said, growing anxious. Lin Yayun shot her a long, scrutinizing look, then stood up. "Fine. I'll go with you." Jiang Wenqi hurried to follow him. The usually bustling emergency room was now in complete chaos due to Gu Jingyang's presence. A group of men in black suits stood guard at the door, and outside, a crowd of doctors and nurses gathered to catch a glimpse. Lin Yayun, already irate, shouted, "What are you all staring at? Get back to work." The crowd scattered immediately. Jiang Wenqi rushed into the emergency room, where Gu Jingyang sat on a hospital bed, his injured arm still bleeding. His agent, upon seeing her, breathed a sigh of relief. "Finally, you're here. Please take a look at him." Gu Jingyang paused, but still didn't look at her. Jiang Wenqi walked over, knelt by his side, and gently touched the skin near his wound. Her eyes reddened as she asked softly, "Does it hurt?" That one look of concern melted away all the misunderstandings and resentment between them. Gu Jingyang finally lowered his head and, with a slightly awkward tone, said, "I'm fine." Before Jiang Wenqi could respond, Lin Yayun had already stormed in, his voice icy. "Is this how you treat patients? I'd give you a 0 in your evaluation." Jiang Wenqi quickly moved aside, saying, "Please, Dr. Lin, take a look. Does he need a cast? I'm worried the wound might be infected. Should we give him penicillin?" After examining the wound briefly, Lin Yayun chuckled and said, "No need for a cast or penicillin, but the knife might have been rusty. A tetanus shot is probably necessary." "Huh." Jiang Wenqi blinked in confusion. Lin Yayun walked away, tossing over his shoulder. "There are fools every year, but this year seems particularly abundant." Gu Jingyang, embarrassed and angry, demanded, "Who is that guy?" "Lin Yayun, my internship mentor. He's an amazing doctor, so don't worry, you'll be fine," Jiang Wenqi reassured him. But what did he mean by that? Gu Jingyang turned his head to the side and mumbled, "How should I know?" Then, feigning pain, he groaned, "It suddenly hurts a lot, Wenqi. Please take another look." Jiang Wenqi immediately began soothing him in a gentle voice. After all, if anyone found out that he had injured himself just to win back his girlfriend, Gu Jingyang's reputation would be utterly ruined. Gu Jingyang was taken to the infusion room for a shot by the nurse, and Jiang Wenqi went to thank Lin Yayun in his office. "Dr. Lin, I know such a minor injury shouldn't trouble you, but I really appreciate it." "Jiang Wenqi, you really don't remember me at all?" Lin Yayun suddenly interrupted her, looking up with a pair of cold, sharp eyes. Jiang Wenqi was taken aback. After a moment, Lin Yayun sighed and said, "I visited your home when we were kids." Jiang Wenqi's eyes lit up and she hurriedly replied, "Your Lin uncle's son? The tall, quiet boy." Lin Yayun nodded. No wonder she found Lin Yayun somewhat familiar. It turned out they had met when they were children. She remembered it was around the time she was 13 or 14. Lin Uncle was a good friend of her father's and stayed at their home while on a business trip, bringing along a tall, thin boy. She never expected it was Lin Yayin. Back then, for some minor dispute with Gu Jingyang, she ended up playing with Lin Yayin for several days. Lin Yayin was completely different from Gu Jingyang. He was particularly aloof, often sitting alone reading books for the entire day. Jiang Wanqi enjoyed teasing him, purposely making noise to annoy him. When Lin Yayin left, she cried for several days, and Gu Jingyang was quite jealous about it. Jiang Wanqi said excitedly, "You were so smart as a child, and you're indeed impressive now." Lin Yayin didn't respond, frowning as he asked, "What's going on between you and Gu Jingyang?" Jiang Wanqi lowered her eyes, feeling a bit bitter, but for some reason, she felt safe sharing her pain with her childhood friend. "I've liked him since we were very young. He treated me really well, but you know about my father's situation. I don't want his life to bear an indelible stain because of me." "What stain?" Lin Yayin interrupted her sharply. "Your father has already been punished for his mistakes. I don't think that's a stain on you. If you and Gu Jingyang like each other, why worry about what others think? Since he has chosen you, it means he's prepared to face these challenges. And you come from a prestigious school, have excellent grades, a gentle personality, and decent looks. You are more than a match for Gu Jingyang." Decent looks? This was the first time Jiang Wanqi had heard such a peculiar expression, but surprisingly, his words comforted her and she couldn't help but laugh. "Dr. Lin, did you just use 4 compliments for me? I'm flattered." Seeing her mood lift, Lin Yayin waved his hand, saying, "Hurry up and go. I'll give you half a day off. Get that big Buddha out of the emergency room. Otherwise, the whole hospital can't function." "Thank you, Dr. Lin. I'll treat you to dinner another day." Jiang Wanqi smiled as she bid him farewell. Lin Yayin leaned back in his chair and looked at the ceiling. In fact, after Jiang Wanqi's father had the incident back then, he had gone to look for her, but by the time he arrived, she was already gone. The neighbors told him that Jiang Wanqi had been adopted by the Gu family and that they had moved away. He still didn't understand why, upon seeing the news back then, he had secretly skipped school, taking a 2-day train ride to a strange city to find a girl he had only spent 6 days with. Maybe it was because that little girl had a loud voice yet was unexpectedly lovely. Perhaps it was because that little girl, tired from playing, had napped at his feet on the carpet, with warm sunlight shining on her face, making her look like an angel. But all that is no longer important. Jiang Wanqi originally planned to go home with Gu Jingyang, but Gu Xiaoxiao called, saying she had a sudden stomachache and was alone in the dormitory, asking if Jiang Wanqi could come back. Gu Jingyang, not wanting to put her in a difficult position, said, "You go back to the dormitory. I'll be fine here." Jiang Wanqi knew Gu's mother would take care of him, so she felt relieved, saying, "Then I'll come see you tomorrow." The car stopped in front of Jiang Wanqi's dormitory. It was nearing evening, but there were still quite a few students on this road. Jiang Wanqi worried about Gu Jingyang being spotted and felt sorry for his injury, telling him not to get out. But Gu Jingyang insisted on walking her downstairs. In the dim light, Jiang Wanqi looked at Gu Jingyang's obviously thinner face and felt guilty. "Jingyang, don't you blame me?" After a month apart, Gu Jingyang could no longer restrain himself upon seeing the woman he had been longing for. He pulled Jiang Wanqi into his arms and leaned down to kiss her. This kiss was intense and greedy, as if he wanted to merge Jiang Wanqi into his body. When the kiss ended, his lips lingered on hers, breathing unevenly as he asked, "Shishi, do you trust me?" Jiang Wanqi nodded vigorously. Gu Jingyang cradled her face and said earnestly, "Good. Then don't worry about anything else. Just listen to me and stay by my side, okay?" Guo Xiaoxiao just had an upset stomach from eating something bad, and Jiang Wanqi had fed her some medicine. Before long, she was feeling much better. By evening, Zhou Ziwei and Meng Qi had returned to the dorm one after another. Lately, everyone had been busy with internships, and it had been a long time since they had gathered together. They chatted late into the night, discussing plans to have breakfast together the next morning. However, the next morning, as the four of them stepped out of the dorm building, they were suddenly surrounded by a large group of reporters, with countless microphones and cameras directed at Jiang Wanqi from all directions. Can you tell us what your relationship is with Gu Jingyang? Last night, Gu Jingyang escorted you back to the dorm and kissed you passionately for half an hour right here at the base of this building. How do you explain that? One reporter even thrust a photo he had secretly taken in front of Jiang Wanqi, leaving her with no way to refute it. Guo Xiaoxiao and the others were stunned, standing there in confusion. Jiang Wanqi felt anxious and just wanted to pull them away quickly, but there were too many reporters. They couldn't push their way through. A camera even stretched out toward Jiang Wanqi's face, almost touching it. At that moment, the sound of tires screeching against the pavement pierced through the air. Everyone turned to see a black Bentley speeding toward them, skidding right into the crowd of reporters. One reporter recognized the car and shouted excitedly, "That's Gu Jingyang's private car." Before he finished speaking, Gu Jingyang had jumped out of the car and rushed over, standing in front of Jiang Wanqi. He snatched the camera that was almost touching her face and smashed it to the ground with a loud crash. He pointed angrily at the reporter, his eyes filled with rage. "I warn you, don't scare her, don't touch her, and don't take pictures of her." No one had ever seen Gu Jingyang like this, nor had anyone seen any public figure behave so recklessly and violently in front of so many people. He was still wearing his pajamas with slippers on, and his hair was a mess. It was clear he had rushed here straight from bed, which was utterly astonishing and shocking. Gu Jingyang held Jiang Wanqi's hand tightly and maneuvered through the crowd back to the car, quickly driving away. Everyone was still frozen in place. Suddenly, Jiang Wanqi remembered, her expression shifting in concern. Xiao and the others are still out there. The reporters won't let them go. Gu Jingyang pondered for a moment and dialed his manager's number. "Bring the bodyguards and head over to escort my friends away." "What did you find out about that thing I asked you to check?" "You guessed right. The paparazzi tailing you last night were indeed hired by Shiran. Now, photos of you and Jiang Xiaoxiao have gone viral online, and many marketing accounts are releasing information about Jiang Xiaoxiao's parents. It's likely she leaked that information as well." Gu Jingyang replied coldly, "Contact the company immediately and have them remove the trending topic about Xiaoxiao and shut down those marketing accounts." After hanging up, Jiang Wanqi felt a sudden chill in her heart and asked, "How did you know it was Shiran?" Gu Jingyang explained, "I overheard your conversation with Lin Yayin yesterday. You wouldn't have suspected her without reason, and you seemed upset at that gathering. I had someone pull the surveillance footage from Crown Club, and sure enough, I saw Shiran talking nonsense in front of you by the restroom. When this incident blew up early this morning, she was the first person I thought of. A quick investigation confirmed it. She's relentless and has stepped up her game. I won't let her off easily." Jiang Wanqi felt touched and gently squeezed his right hand. Only then did Gu Jingyang's emotions calm down, and he firmly held her hand in return. Still worried about her roommates, Jiang Wanqi sent a message in the group chat. "Where are you guys now? Are you alright? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have kept this from you. But this matter is really important, and I was afraid to talk about it." Guo Xiaoxiao quickly replied, "So, you really are dating Gu Jingyang?" "Yeah." Then, a flood of and messages filled the chat. Meng Qi said, "The male god is so close, yet we've never seen him." Jiang Wanqi weakly replied, "Actually, you saw him on the first day of school when I came to check in." There was an awkward silence. Guo Xiaoxiao exclaimed, "The guy in the cap and sunglasses was my male god?" Meng Qi added, "The one who helped you carry your luggage, made your bed, and poured your water was my male god?" Zhou Ziwei remarked, "The male god is really tall." Jiang Wanqi laughed so hard that she nearly fell over, reading these messages to Gu Jingyang, who was driving. Gu Jingyang chuckled, took her phone, and sent a voice message. "Thank you for your understanding. I'll treat you all to a big meal someday." After that, the chat went silent, and Jiang Wanqi grew worried that they might have fainted from shock. Jiang Wanqi, had a restless night and was startled awake early in the morning. She fell asleep in the car. Once they got home, Gu Jingyang carried her into the room, helped her take off her clothes, and tucked her under the blanket. He kissed her forehead and said gently, "Sleep well. Don't worry. I'm here." Jiang Wanshi soon drifted into a sweet dream. Before long, Gu Jingyang's management team arrived and gathered in the study to discuss. The marketing accounts have been shut down, but the public is highly engaged in this matter. The public opinion cannot be contained. The PR department has drafted a statement. You'd better release it now. Gu Jingyang sat on the sofa, extinguishing the cigarette he was holding in the ashtray. He replied in a deep voice, "No need." Everyone was taken aback. Gu Jingyang looked toward the bedroom with soft eyes. If it were before, I could have easily said that my relationship is nobody's business, but now, many things I didn't care about matter to Shishi. I'll write this statement myself. Jiang Wanshi slept for a long time. When she finally woke up, the room was dim, and her phone on the bedside table vibrated a few times. She took it out and saw that her Weibo had millions of notifications. Her heart raced as she opened Weibo, where she was greeted by a long post that Gu Jingyang had just released, with nearly 1 million comments already. Anyone who knows me well should know how much I love the song, You May Run. It was the first song I wrote and the initial motivation that led me into the music industry. The name of this song comes from my favorite line of poetry, You May Run, Jiang Wanshi. Yes, her name is Jiang Wanshi. I love these 3 characters so much that every time I read them, my heart burns with passion. During the last interview, I mentioned my first love. The host asked if I had contacted her over the years. I can now tell you that she has always been by my side. From the first stirrings of love to deep affection, we have always loved each other. Add Jiang Wanshi. Tears streamed down Jiang Wanshi's face. She knew how inarticulate he was, yet now, he was willing to use such detailed and tender words to tell everyone that he loved her. She rushed out of the bedroom to find Gu Jingyang standing in the kitchen, where a pot of hot milk was bubbling away. Unable to hold back her emotions, she ran over and hugged him from behind, her tears soaking his shirt. Gu Jingyang turned around, smiling as he wiped her tears away. "Don't cry. You'll look like a little raccoon. Get ready. I'm taking you to Pingshan tomorrow." Jiang Wanshi froze. Pingshan? That was where her father was serving his sentence. Gu Jingyang continued. "I visited him before. I told him we're getting married, and your biggest wish is to receive his blessing. He's willing to see you now." Jiang Wanshi looked at him in disbelief. "Married? Are you planning a fake wedding to deceive him?" "Who said it's fake?" Gu Jingyang suddenly stepped back a few paces, knelt on one knee, and pulled out a beautifully crafted ring from his pocket. He gently said, "Miss Jiang, will you marry Mr. Gu? For better or worse, in sickness and health, will you promise to never leave him?" Tears streamed down Jiang Wanshi's face as she softly replied, "I do." Gu Jingyang embraced her tightly, his heart overflowing with happiness and joy. He couldn't help but recall that clear morning when they first met, with the kapok flowers blooming and the sound of music floating in the air. He had woken from a dream, gazing into the distance, where behind the window sat a girl, her fingers dancing across the piano. It seemed she had noticed his gaze, turning to smile sweetly at him, a hint of a dimple appearing at the corner of her mouth. In that moment, his heart raced. He realized that with the presence of such a girl in his life, he understood what a bond meant, childhood sweethearts, leading to a lifetime together.